Imagine waking up one day to discover that the enemy you've been running from your entire life has been living inside you all along, not in the form of a voice whispering obvious lies, but in the quiet patterns you've accepted as just who I am. It's in the way you hesitate before speaking your truth, in the way you seek comfort when you should be moving toward discomfort, in the way you smile politely while your inner voice is screaming for you to leave, to change, to do anything other than stay exactly where you are. You think you're in control of your choices, but what if the truth is far darker? What if most of the decisions you make are not truly yours? What if your free will is nothing more than the echo of fears, doubts, and wounds you've never dared to face? There's a war raging in your mind right now, a war without bullets or blood, but with casualties all the same. Your dreams, your confidence, your sense of meaning. It's silent enough to make you believe there's nothing wrong, that the low hum of anxiety you carry is normal, that the subtle avoidance of your deepest desires is just being realistic, that the feeling of being slightly disconnected from yourself is simply being an adult. But what if this isn't normal at all? What if you've been trained by your past, by society, by your own survival instincts, to call this war peace? Picture this. You're standing at a crossroads. One path is familiar, well-lit, predictable. You've walked it 1,000 times. It's safe. The other path disappears into darkness. You don't know what lies beyond it, but something in your chest stirs when you look at it, a faint recognition as if it's the road you were always meant to take. And yet, you step onto the familiar road again, not because you chose it with clarity, but because something inside you made the choice for you, something that knows how to keep you comfortable even if comfort is killing you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The silent war inside your mind is not a battle against some external enemy. It's the clash between the self you've been taught to be and the self you were meant to become. Every hesitation, every self-doubt, every moment of procrastination, it's not just bad habits, it's warfare. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to fight the wrong battles? You'll argue with strangers online, but you won't confront the person in the mirror about the life you're avoiding. You'll hustle endlessly for validation from others, yet neglect the validation that truly matters, the one you give yourself. You'll plan and replan for a better time to start, even though deep down you know that better time will never come. And still, you tell yourself you're free, that you're making your own choices, that you're living your life. But if you really pause, if you strip away the excuses and the stories, can you say with absolute certainty that you're not being ruled by something unseen? Think about the voices in your head, the one that says, you're not ready yet. The one that says, they won't understand. The one that says, it's too risky. The one that says, you're fine where you are. Where do they come from? Are they truly yours? Or are they the inherited fears of your parents, the quiet discouragement of teachers, the cynical warnings of a society built on keeping people in line? What if most of the logic you use to make decisions is actually fear wearing a clever disguise? What if most of your caution is really self-sabotage, camouflaged so well you think it's wisdom? And here's the cruelest paradox. The more you ignore this war, the more you lose. Not in an obvious, catastrophic way. Life will go on. You'll work, you'll laugh, you'll love in fragments. But somewhere deep within, something essential will wither. That untamed, unapologetic self you were born with will shrink into a polite shadow. Some people live their entire lives like this, fighting a war they don't even realize they're in. They reach the end with the haunting realization that they never truly lived at all, that their life was a performance, rehearsed for an audience that wasn't even watching. So I'll ask you the question most people never dare to face. If your life is the sum of your choices, but your choices are quietly controlled by the fears and wounds you've never confronted, whose life are you actually living? And if you're not living your own, how long will you keep pretending that you are? Because the war inside your mind will not end on its own. It feeds on inaction. It thrives in denial. And every day you delay, it grows stronger. Which leaves you with only one real choice, the same choice every human being faces, whether they acknowledge it or not. Will you keep living as a hostage to the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to face? Or will you step into the dark toward the battle that will either destroy you or finally set you free? The enemy in this war does not storm the gates of your mind. It was invited in years ago, quietly, subtly, without you even realizing it. It began the moment you learned that some parts of you were acceptable and others were not. Maybe it was in childhood when you noticed that your anger made adults uncomfortable, so you learned to hide it. Maybe it was when your creativity didn't fit the rigid structures of school, so you buried it under practical skills. Maybe it was the day you felt joy so pure it made you fearless, until someone laughed at you, and you never let yourself feel that way again. Carl Jung called this process the creation of the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is the sum of everything you've repressed in order to survive and be accepted. Your rage, your ambition, your vulnerability, your forbidden desires, all locked away in the basement of your psyche. But here's the catch. Whatever you repress does not disappear. It waits. And while it waits, it shapes you from the inside, influencing your decisions, your relationships, and even the way you see yourself. Jung warned that if you do not confront your shadow, you will project it onto others. The arrogance you despise in your coworker? It may be your own unclaimed confidence. The selfishness you hate in your partner? It could be your own unmet needs crying for attention. You see the world not as it is, but as a mirror of the parts of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. This is the first layer of the silent war, the battle between the self you present to the world and the self you have hidden away. But the war runs deeper. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the herd instinct, the powerful pull to think, act, and believe, as the collective does. Society does not reward the free thinker. It rewards the compliant, the agreeable, the predictable. It tells you to chase stability over truth, comfort over courage. And it punishes those who wander too far from the script with isolation, ridicule, or even envy disguised as concern. This conditioning is so effective that you begin to police yourself long before anyone else needs to. You censor your thoughts before you speak. You dilute your dreams before you pursue them. You shrink yourself so naturally that you no longer realize you are doing it. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that much of human suffering comes from an unending cycle of desire. We are trapped between longing and boredom. When we lack something, we suffer. When we get it, we quickly grow restless and crave something else. This constant pendulum swing leaves us vulnerable, easy to control. A society that can keep you chasing the next promotion, the next possession, the next distraction, never has to worry about you questioning the system itself. This is the second layer of the silent war, the conditioning that keeps you docile, distracted, and dependent. And then there is the modern twist, a problem Aldous Huxley foresaw decades ago. Huxley warned not of a world ruled by fear, but of one drowned in pleasure and triviality, where freedom is surrendered not because it is taken by force, but because it is willingly traded for comfort, entertainment, and distraction. In such a world, people are not oppressed by chains, but by their own compulsions, scrolling endlessly, consuming passively, numbing themselves into quiet submission. This is the third layer of the silent war, addiction to the very things that keep you from waking up. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps, observed that human beings can endure almost anything if they have meaning. But in our modern world, meaning is harder to find. We are told to find ourselves in brands, in trends, in curated lifestyles. But these are not anchors for the soul. They are sandcastles. When they inevitably collapse, we are left adrift, not knowing who we are without them. The silent war thrives in this spiritual vacuum. When you have no higher purpose, you default to the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is always the one most beneficial to those who profit from your compliance. Here's the cruel irony. This war is fought entirely on the battlefield of your own mind. No one has to hold you down if you are willing to hold yourself down. No one has to silence you if you willingly silence yourself. No one has to keep you imprisoned if you never question the invisible walls around you. You think you are avoiding discomfort, but what you are really avoiding is transformation. You think you are protecting yourself, but what you are really protecting is the very structure that keeps you small. And every time you choose comfort over courage, the war claims another victory, not with violence, but with quiet consent. The most dangerous part? The enemy wins by convincing you there is no war at all, that the way things are is simply the way things must be, that the thoughts in your head are entirely your own, that the life you are living is the only one possible. But deep down, something in you knows better. There are moments, fleeting but undeniable, when the fog lifts. When you hear a line in a song, or stand in a place of wild beauty, or look into the eyes of someone unafraid to live fully, and you feel it. That ache in your chest. That whisper that says, this isn't it. There's more. You've forgotten something important. That's the crack in the armor. The place where truth tries to break through. And yet, most people patch it up as quickly as possible. They drown it in noise, in work, in alcohol, in endless scrolling. Anything to avoid the dangerous act of listening to it. Because if you listen, if you truly allow yourself to hear what's behind that whisper, you might realize that the life you've built is a fortress for the wrong side in this war, and tearing it down would mean facing the unknown, which is the one thing the silent war inside your mind has trained you never to do. The most dangerous prisons are not made of concrete and steel. They are built in the mind, constructed from beliefs you never questioned, fears you never faced, and habits you never challenged. And in this war, the walls are invisible. You walk freely, you smile for the camera, you post photos of your life. Yet every choice, every reaction, every dream you allow yourself to entertain has been shaped by the silent hand of this unseen enemy. This is how the war wins. Not with one catastrophic blow, but with a slow erosion of your true self, the erosion of desire. At first, the change is subtle. You start lowering your standards, not because you consciously want less, but because you've convinced yourself that realistic goals are wiser than bold ones. The dream you once had to write, create, build, or travel is quietly swapped for something safe. You tell yourself you'll come back to it later, but later never comes. And each time you choose the smaller dream, something inside you dims. Not in a dramatic collapse, but like a candle burning quietly until there's nothing left but smoke. This is how mediocrity becomes comfortable. So comfortable you stop noticing it's eating you alive. The illusion of control. You believe you are making your own decisions. You chose this job. You chose this relationship. You chose this routine. But if you look closer, how many of those choices were made to avoid pain rather than to pursue meaning? How many were influenced by what would earn you approval? How many were shaped by fear? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. Modern psychology has a name for this: loss aversion. Our brains are wired to fear losing more than they value gaining. So instead of chasing what we truly want, we cling to what we already have, even if it's suffocating us. This isn't control. It's captivity disguised as stability. The internal saboteur. One of the cruelest tricks of the silent war is turning you into your own warden. You develop internal scripts that shut down possibilities before they can take root. I'm not ready. I'm not the type of person who can do that. I'll fail and embarrass myself. This self-sabotage is often born from learned helplessness, a psychological state where you've been conditioned to believe your actions don't matter, even when they do. It's like having a key in your pocket and never checking if it fits the lock because, once upon a time, someone told you it wouldn't. The hijacking of attention. In a world engineered for distraction, the war does not need to destroy your willpower. It only needs to keep you from focusing it. Your phone vibrates, your feed scrolls endlessly, your attention is scattered into 1,000 fragments, and without focus, you cannot wage war on the enemy within because you cannot even see it clearly. Neuroscience calls this attention residue, the mental cost of constantly switching tasks. Your mind never has the deep, uninterrupted space it needs to question, to reflect, to connect the dots. The war thrives in this state because clarity is its greatest threat, the slow death of authenticity. Little by little, you lose touch with who you really are. You start playing roles, versions of yourself designed to be palatable to others. The rebellious teenager becomes the agreeable employee. The curious child becomes the efficient adult. The artist becomes the worker. Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the act of lying to yourself to avoid the discomfort of freedom. Freedom, after all, is terrifying because it comes with responsibility. It means owning your choices, owning your failures, owning your power. And power is dangerous to the structures that keep you compliant. So instead, you tell yourself a more convenient story. This is just who I am. I don't need more. I'm happy enough. But in quiet moments, when the noise fades, a different truth leaks through. You realize you've become fluent in the language of your own excuses. The cultural feedback loop. The consequences are not limited to individuals. Entire societies can become infected by the silent war. When enough people choose comfort over courage, the collective standard drops. Mediocrity becomes the norm, and those who reach higher are mocked, dismissed, or actively resisted. Nietzsche saw this as the rise of the last man, a society where ambition, depth, and individuality are replaced by comfort, safety, and sameness. In such a world, people stop asking, "What is the highest I can reach?" and instead ask, "How can I stay comfortable until I die?" The result? An endless loop where the culture reinforces the very patterns that keep people small, and those small people reinforce the culture in return. The emotional toll. Perhaps the most tragic consequence of this war is the quiet despair it breeds. Not the explosive kind of despair that makes headlines, but the dull, constant ache that lives in your chest. It's the feeling that something is missing, even if you can't name it. It's waking up and realizing you can't remember the last time you felt truly alive. Psychologists call this existential vacuum, a state where life feels empty because it lacks meaning. And the longer you stay in it, the heavier it becomes, until you start to believe that this is all life has to offer. This is how the war wins, not by breaking you outright, but by convincing you there's nothing worth breaking for. The tipping point. But here's the paradox that could change everything. The very moment you begin to see the war, you've already started to win. Awareness is the crack in the armor. Once you realize that your normal is not truly yours, that your fears, habits, and desires may have been planted there, you can no longer unsee it. It becomes impossible to go back to blind compliance. But awareness alone is not enough, because once you see the war, you face a choice: fight or surrender consciously. And fighting is not easy. It means breaking habits that feel like second nature. It means facing truths that may dismantle the life you've built. It means stepping into the unknown without any guarantee of what lies ahead. Most people turn back at this point. They patch the cracks. They turn up the noise. They numb themselves again. But a few, just a few, decide that even uncertainty is better than living as a ghost in their own life. And those few begin the rebellion. Rebellion in this war doesn't begin with loud speeches or grand gestures. It begins in silence, when you stop running from yourself long enough to hear the enemy's voice and realize it sounds eerily like your own. Breaking free is not about destroying the enemy in one decisive blow. It's about reclaiming your mind inch by inch, choice by choice, until the enemy no longer has anywhere to hide. But the first step is also the most terrifying. You must be willing to lose the life you have to find the life you need. Step 1. Radical self-honesty. The rebellion starts with a question most people avoid because it has the power to dismantle their entire reality. What am I pretending not to know? Ask yourself this, and you might feel the ground shift. Because the truth is, you already know where the war is being fought in your life. You know the habits that keep you small. You know the relationships that drain you. You know the dreams you've buried alive. Carl Jung warned that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Radical self-honesty is the act of dragging your unconscious patterns into the light, no matter how uncomfortable it is to see them. This is not an intellectual exercise. It is emotional warfare. You will feel resistance. You will want to soften the truth, But you must resist that urge, because every lie you tell yourself is another brick in your prison wall. Step 2. The courage to unlearn. Most of what you believe about life did not come from your own direct experience. It was inherited. From parents, from schools, from culture. Some of these beliefs serve you, many do not. Nietzsche spoke of the